I want to show you tonight what I've been doing for the last decade in Latin America. And I want to explain you now before the picture start the slide. So, why Latin America? I am originally from Spain. We share the language and some of the culture for sure. But my family actually come from Uruguay, a teeny country between Argentina and Brazil. And I grew up between Spain and Uruguay and different countries because my grandfather was working for the UN. So he was a amateur photographer. He was working as an architect urbanist in different countries in Latin America. So my roots always come from this place. I always, when I travel there or when I even study there, I don't want to keep myself in Latin America. I didn't want to go back to Spain. So when my grandfather died, when I was 10 years old, on my next trip to Uruguay to see my family, my grandmother gave me a big box uh, with full of slides, picture of my grandfather took. He never published anything. He wasn't interested really in that. But I took this one of those. I don't know. Maybe Ron can help me. You know this box when you put the slides and you amplify the slide viewer. Yeah, picture viewer. Yeah, something like that you put like a smartphone, in your face, and you put the slides, the different pictures. So I basically spent like 3 months going through all these pictures and creating like a visual map of Latin America. And since that day, I was 10 years old. I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to revisit the places where my grandfather was photographing. He have a and photograph and travel and write and this is what I've been doing. I needed some time because I was a child, but I took one of my grandfather cameras and I started shooting even when it was broke, have no light meter on it and everything. It was on film for sure, and I started shooting. And when I was like a 17, 18 years old, I realized that just knowing how to take a good picture, it wasn't enough. So I went to a school. I studied sociology and anthropology. I did literature, poetry studies too, and I'm doing in Latin America different recitals on poetry, and it was something that connected to my roots. And yes, I studied, but I didn't want to become a sociologist or anthropologist. So I just take the pictures and I just take my studies, but to have more knowledge of for my documentary project I wanted to do. So I did it at distance. I take the books, my camera, and something else in my backpack, some clothes and stuff, and I travel different countries in Latin America. And when I finished my sociological studies, the school, anthropology, and everything, I just realized that maybe now I am a bit ready to start. Again, my main point wasn't really a photojournalist or having my work published. It was doing this project, the only project that I was interested in. And I have, it was the year 2008, 2009, and I used to started in Brazil. At the time was kind of the paradigm of Latin America of growth, of hope, after several years of dictatorship, of economical crisis, and so on. Kind of a parallel of so many countries in the region. So I just went to Brazil. As I told you before, I am sociologist, but I research a lot before going to the places. I read, I connect with people. But most of my stories I never found on the internet. Most of my stories is with this background. I go to the field and I spend as much time as possible, and I just dig into the people life and into the communities. So our stories that you cannot find in internet are stories that you just find when you put your feet in the ground. So I'm gonna show you now, basically, is the last decade, a tight edit of what I've been doing. I organized it by chapters. We can dig maybe if we have some time at the end on some of the specific on the stories, but it's stories that are all connected in a way and are different in parts of the in Brazil, in Venezuela, in Mexico, in Colombia, Peru, and so on. So if you have any question at the end, just let me know. All right? Thank you. Well, what you've been seeing here are I normally work in close communities where I get access after several times trying it and several weeks or months sometimes in the field. And you see at the beginning an abandoned chocolate factory who was occupied by 60 families at the time, 2003, by the people who were living in the streets, and build a community within the factory. I always, as a photographer, as a sociologist, I've always been interested in how we get together, how we bond, how we connect and interact, and how we need each other to survive, right? Some Western countries sometimes we don't realize because we think that with paying all the services we need is enough, but when you go to these places you realize that human interaction are crucial to survive. So for me, always what I have always my obsession, photographer probably are the people obsessed with different issues and different topics or regions in the world, and I am obsessed about the culture of resistance of people who change their environment in order to survive. So basically, these people who were living in the dangerous streets of Salvador de Bahia in the northern of Brazil, occupied an abandoned building, a factory in this case, in order to create a community and to have their children safe and alive. It was last until 2011, with the government evicted all the families from those in a process of cleaning up the visual poverty from the city center of the Brazilian cities in order to celebrate the World Cup and the Olympic Games in 2014 and 16. And so I basically enter in this place mostly because of the soccer than the pictures. So I was playing more soccer at the beginning than just taking pictures. The people ask me always how much time I spend. Is most of the time it takes few hours at the beginning, then few days, few weeks, few years. It was a 2 years project at the end. It was my first project. I didn't know anybody in the industry. Nobody knows me, and it was the project where I wanted to go. I have my best friend, Santiago. I met him when I was 3 years old. He's an artist, a musician, and a painter. And he almost told me, "Oh, you want your work, out. You want your work, like being published, but why you are in a hurry, right? It's like me, I am composing a song. I cannot play the song until the song is not finished. So why you are in a rush?" So I said, "Yes, I don't have song to play, right? I don't have anything." So with this project, I finally think, okay, I have my song. I have, a final project. Most of the time, or sometimes, the photographer don't know when to finish a project. And in this case, was very simple. The factory was destroyed, and the community wasn't there anymore. They evicted all of them to different parts of the city of Salvador. And so it was over, and I just have to edit. I didn't check, I think, not most of the work until it was done. It was over, and then I put it. I asked to my friend to have a printer, really good printer, and I print some of the picture, and I went to New York to meet the editors and to meet what I can do to don't have more picture in my hard drive with no sense. So, and I thought that for the first time I really needed to put my work out, in respect for the people, I've been photographing for 2 years, and to tell the story and do the efforts to get out. So I was trying it. Unfortunately, the picture was never really published itself, as a feature or something. Was most published because, some other reasons. This wasn't really the main issue. But the story was out there, it was well known and published, and it was a crucial moment for Brazil and Latin America. And I'm glad for that. And well, I've been working in other stories you've seen here in a prison run by their own prisoners in Venezuela. Again, it's a community. They took the power of the building they were living because the lack of the condition were shit and everything. And they talk. I'm not saying that this was good or right and this is a good people. It's not, but it's just the consistent looking for better in people's minds, in the human life, right? So this is my approach. Some of the pictures here are spaces in between where I am researching, where I am in the field, and I wanted to give you a big glimpse of what I am, how is my process of working. We have limited time, it's 1 minute left. So again, thank you very much for to be here. And yes, if you have any question later, all right? Thank you very much.